The Book of Boba Fett is the weirdest show I've ever seen in my entire life. It's the weirdest show I've ever seen because it's actually two shows, and both of those shows have no narrative structure whatsoever, and despite all of that, I think I loved it. The show is so unapologetically what it is. It's a Star Wars show for Star Wars nerd. Black Chrysanthemum's going to show up and you're going to love it. We're going to have a fight scene in Toshi Station. We're going to have an entire episode that's just an episode of another show, and you're going to love it because it's Star Wars. Realising that I enjoyed this show has been hard to come to terms with, especially when you contrast it with my previous work. Last year, I released a video called The Luke Skywalker Problem, where I outlined my problems with the end of The Mandalorian Season 2, and the reasons I felt it failed. An opinion which I realise is controversial. The finale of Boba Fett does something similar, introducing Cad Bane as a surprise end villain, and I loved it. I thought it was perfect. Is this not the same as that? I'm pretty sure it is. So what exactly has changed here? What even is my relationship to this franchise? Well, join me on this Magic Space Lizard based vision quest and we'll see if we can't find out. If you're trying to introduce a new person to Star Wars for the first time, I can honestly say that The Mandalorian is a good place to start. With its introduction of a new character, and at least for the first season a fairly self-contained plot, it's a great introduction to the world. The Book of Boba Fett is not. It's really not. The Book of Boba Fett relies on so much prior knowledge outside of the show itself that the entire premise of the show will be lost on you if you haven't watched at least the original trilogy, 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and Attack of the Clones. Boba Fett is a character from the original trilogy, but the character parts of his character mostly exist in extended media like comic books and cartoons, and it's that well more than anything that this show draws from. Kind of. Look, I have no idea how to talk about this show. If you want to know more, here's a link to my podcast where me and my co-host try to understand it. Let's just talk about Cad Bane.
I don't negotiate with gutless murderers.
If that's not the quack to calling the stifling slimy.
Cad Bane is a character who never in a million years did I expect to see in live action. The blue cowboy man with red eyes and rocket boots felt a little bit too cartoony to me, if you can believe it. I'll admit when he first showed up I thought he looked a bit off, but over the course of the finale I changed my mind. They absolutely nailed it. The way he moves, the way he talks, he feels perfect. And as a massive Clone Wars fan, I got a smile on my face every time he was on screen. Okay, now that I've got my nerd out done, there's 2 ways we can talk about Cad Bane's presence in this show. As part of the show alone, or as part of the continuing Star Wars universe. If we do it the first way, then it's kind of a total mess. This random blue dude rocks up and shoots Cobb Vanth and then he gets killed by Boba. He's nothing but a cool bad guy in the way of our heroes. If we look at this appearance not as a climactic moment of the show, but as a climactic moment of a decade-long character arc spanning movies, comics and cartoons, it's almost perfect. Let me give you the rundown if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Cad Bane was a legendary bounty hunter in the era of the Clone Wars. After the death of Jango Fett, Bane took Jango's son Boba under his wing and taught him bounty hunting. Cad Bane, however, was no teacher, and the two did not get along one bit, eventually ending in a standoff where both of them got shot in the head, leaving Bane permanently wounded and the distinctive ding in Boba Fett's helmet. In the years afterward, Bane and Fett became bitter bounty hunting rivals, with Boba Fett's name and reputation eventually overshadowing that of the old gunslinger. Boba Fett was just as cold and heartless as Bane until he met the Tuskens, who took him in and showed him a new way of life. They were murdered, but he decides regardless to carry on their legacy, claiming the throne of his old employer and doing things the right way, but a ghost comes back to haunt him. Cad Bane doesn't believe that Fett has really changed, believes he's still the killer he trained him to be, and he didn't train him to be better than himself.
You gave it a shot. You tried to go straight, but you've got your father's blood pumping through your veins. You're a killer.
But Boba beats him with skill not taught by Bane, but with skill taught by the Tuskens, a symbol of his new life and way of living, conquering the old ways. It's a great thematic conclusion to both characters' arcs. Bane has always fought alone, and when they both fought alone they were equals. But Boba is a different man now. He no longer fights for just himself, and in doing so he can finally surpass his old mentor. It's perfect. It's also stupid. If you were wondering why I didn't show any clips of that elaborate backstory I was talking about, it's because they look like this.
I wouldn't be so hasty now, boy.
Almost everything I just said is based on the unfinished episodes of the Clone Wars that never got made, and then the stuff after that about their lifelong rivalry, that's just popular fan interpretation. And if that ain't the summation of the ridiculousness of Star Wars, I don't know what is. This long 30-year rivalry between these characters, I basically made it up in my own head. Remember when I said it draws from a decade of extended material? Fan fiction. I was talking about fan fiction. Cad Bane has a more established on-screen relationship with Fennec Shand, Boba's second-in-command, than he does with Boba himself. They had a whole episode-long fight scene in the Bad Batch, and the two of them don't even speak in this episode. In fact, that's probably why they sent Fennec off to do something else. And that's the thing about Star Wars, isn't it? Star Wars is a goddamn mess of nonsense when you get right down to it. Cad Bane and his imaginary arc are just the tip of the iceberg. The Book of Boba Fett really forces me to confront that the idea of Star Wars I have in my head, of this big expansive galaxy with millions of individual stories, is just a lie. Everything is so interconnected down to the most minute details, and there can never be something new that isn't tethered to something old.
All of that isn't the Quacta calling the Stifling slimy.
The Mandalorian can't just be a new character with a self-contained story. No, he needs to wield the Darksaber and meet Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano and fly in a Naboo Palace starfighter and be best friends with Boba Fett. And of course we have to keep coming back to Tatooine over and over and over and over and over again because it's a thing you know. It's that planet that has the two suns, like that shot from the movie. They literally have to go out of their way to make sure the characters in the same show never meet, because if they did, they'd have to acknowledge things like how, as a child, Ahsoka fought Cad Bane, like, all the time, and they have a pre-established banter and a rivalry.
Ugh, who else wears a hat like that?
Or how these two random people in the bar mad at the biker gang are actually Luke Skywalker's childhood friends, Cabby Marstrib and Leia's fixer Lone Osner, who probably assume he died when his family farm was ransacked by sand people and who would be delighted to hear that their old friend Wormy was still alive. On that subject, Black Chrysanthemum, that Wookiee who showed up, once got in a fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi after he kidnapped Owen Lars. This guy, because he wasn't paying Jabba the Hutt's moisture tax. And thank God that we finally know that the thing Han Solo used to hold the trash compactor open was the cryogenic density combustion booster. You can't separate the Book of Boba Fett from this tangled mess, because this tangled mess is the show. The show takes an entire episode to be a different show about a different character, and then takes another episode to be about 3 more characters who also aren't part of this show. One from a book, one from a show, and one who's Luke Skywalker. The show shatters any semblance that these are supposed to be disconnected stories in a vast universe. Everything is connected, everyone knows each other, everything, literally everything is important, even unfinished animations posted on YouTube. In the Luke Skywalker problem, I made an analogy to a child playing with an action figure. Book of Boba Fett is what happens when you spill all of your action figures out on the floor and start telling little stories with them. And just like the stories you tell in your toy box, none of it really matters. The important bit is the cool fights, is seeing these characters interact, not the plot surrounding it or the consequences. Does anybody actually care why Cad Bane and Boba Fett are having this fight? Oh no, the Pike Syndicate want to run their space operations through Tatooine, but Boba Fett is a member of DARE and he says no to drugs. No, the Pikes are meaningless. Fennec kills all their leadership in a single scene without saying a word. The important part is seeing your action figures fight. Not even the consequences of that fight, just the fight itself. In my big fancy breakdown, I said Cad Bane died, but I don't really believe that. Just like in a toy box, there's no such thing as death in Star Wars. The 2 lead characters of this show are both characters who were presumed dead but came back later. The post-credit scene of the show is another character presumed dead escaping death. Like a toy box, it's all meaningless. This leaves me in conflict with myself, doesn't it? I said in that old video that I wanted Star Wars to be more, to mean more than endless hallway scenes. And yet, here I am a year later, and I still love my toy box. As a critic, as an active viewer, I can see that introducing Cad Bane at the very end of the series, not explaining who he is, and then just killing him off is just really bad storytelling. Real bad. But should I, or can I, deny my childhood glee in seeing my action figures fight each other? I don't know, but I don't think I should. Star Wars can be more, and part of me still wishes that it was, and I'm sure there's a way to do both. In fact, I know there is, I've watched it, it's called Star Wars Clone Wars. But if this is what Star Wars is now, playing in the toy box, I don't know, there's worse things to watch, I suppose. Be out soon.
We'll see. He's got secrets, ladies
You know
and
what's
gentlemen. He's got
I'm going to
secrets.
get meta right now. This part of the episodes is what's going to be playing at the end of that video. So,
Oh, hi YouTube. Hi Kyle the Scott viewers. Listen to the podcast more.
we desperately need your support.